10, 11 years ago, when we started DWCC, one of the objectives was looking and exploring how the church needed to engage creative expressions of how the church engages its culture and is the church within the community. And we started just really with that concept. And over those 10 years, I think has learned a lot. And I just humbly say that it's through trial and error and successes and failures, have learned what it means to be the body of Christ, living and dwelling within walking distance of each other. So the idea of the immersion is really just is another kind of expression of that.
Yeah, so when we set out to kind of discern what we were going to do as a community with this house we had, that was one of the themes that kind of surfaced, was a learning community and an internship community that we could pass on some of this learning to another generation of young up-and-coming leaders, who some would maybe stay in Windsor and continue with us, and some would go back to the church that sent them, and some would continue with higher Christian education. Ultimately, the Immersion in the Neighborhood program would be this 1-year immersive experience of learning and practice, kind of hand in hand, interwoven.
Yeah. I'm also thinking that there's things still for us to learn. Like there's a humble posture that comes into this, that the disruptive work of the Spirit is doing places, and the energy that comes in from young folks doing and living this brings some fresh life and challenge our assumptions and learn new things through it as well.
Yeah. So we were, as we were designing this program and thinking it through, it became clear that one of the things we do is we start out with our Canada Summer Jobs in the park, and we often hire students who come in and they do our community gardens and our barrier free sports for a summer, and they get a chance to meet so many people, and then they leave. And so with this internship program, it would start in the parks in the summer, meeting neighbors and all the neighborhood kids and those who are in the parks playing. And that would be the beginning point, all those flourishing relationships. And then from there, we kind of enter into a year-long exploration of what would it look like to see the parable of the mustard seed kind of happen in our midst in creative, innovative, micro ways in the neighborhood.
The joy or the gift of doing life together isn't it's a 9-to-5 job. It's like 24/7. And so the experiences in doing the mustard seed, entrepreneurial, innovative ideas means you can come back and reflect on it. It reminds you of Luke 10. And since we're building it up based on that model, Jesus sends out with brief description. They come back, they unpack it after experiencing it, and see where God's been at work and doing it. And so there's these iterations that can go on through it. Instead of a heavy investment up front in an idea, it gives a chance for experiencing it and shaping it as it goes along and responding to where the Spirit's at work. So part of the whole year is for the interns to learn to sense the Spirit's movement and developing the gift or the knack of sensing God's direction.
Yeah. So then our timeline, our year, goes through those mountaintop experiences, those gathering, realignment, debriefing, and then sending out again. And there's about 6 or 7 of them throughout the course of a year that provide that ebb and flow, that reflection and sensing the Spirit's disturbing presence.
The fermenting
Disrupting.
goes on. Disrupting. The other component is just doing life together always is a challenge. We found that in the men's house, the women's house, the recovery house, of just doing life together points out my vulnerabilities and my gifts, and then forcing me to, in that life, to begin to be shaped by that, discipled through doing life together. What does it mean to be a loving community? And then vulnerability and forgiveness and grace and all those good character traits that I'll take for the rest of my life, I will remember from my experiences in the Immersion house.
One of the beautiful things of this house is just proximity. It's right beside Bruce Park. It's about halfway between your house and my house. all in walking distance. And I think even as COVID has changed the way that we think about ministry and the way that we think about bringing people together, we all have to live, we all have to eat and hang out, and so the opportunity to do that as an internship community where we're navigating COVID safely, but also there's life together that becomes the family. I think that's a beautiful opportunity for someone who is looking at a gap year experience or trying to figure out what they're going to do with the coming year. This might be the perfect program for that.
So what is the outcome we're hoping for? So I can see, Steve, like 4 or 5 creative mustard seed ideas, of which 1 or 2 might have some life beyond the experience itself. But the other is like, what is the transformational impact that's going to happen in the 4 interns that are involved? Of not only learning relationally, what it means to love, to be in a crucible really of formation, spiritual formation, a chance to check gifts, see them put into play, develop some deep relationships. Those are just a few of the things that are going to play out over this year.
So we are looking for a cohort of interns to start this summer in July, and for the course of the year from July to June to live intentionally in this internship house as part of the DWCC community, as part of the fabric of the neighborhood.
Over the 10 years, as we enter into the second decade, there's been these continual kind of mustard seed, innovative ideas. Many of them work, many of them don't, but that's okay. It's the adaptation and the capacity, the ability to test and try, but not only just into a program, but also in transforming people's lives, shaping and making us, and not only as individuals, but giving people actually the experience of what does it mean to be part of a Christ community in a really deep and intense way that radically changes folks in a really fairly brief period of time. So the 1 year involvement will shape lives for years and years to come.